You're listening to
They're gonna call it a hard foul. They're gonna call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
The NBA Finals are set, Mike. One team has been dominant all season long, winning 800, at an 800 clip of their games. 4 out of every 5, 12-2 in the playoffs, largest margin of victory, and that's our Boston Celtics. The other team has been on fire since about the second week of March and carried that through into the playoffs with impressive victories against the Clippers, although they were shorthanded. But beyond that, fully loaded Thunder team and a Minnesota Timberwolves team. And they've done it on the back of 2 superstars, and Kyrie Irving and especially Luka Dončić. Mike, this is setting up, I think, to be, a really interesting matchup between, one team that's playing great and has really gotten hot at the right time against a team that has been great all season. And there's a ton of storylines. We can touch on them, but I'd love to hear just your initial thoughts, and then I'll give mine as counters or whatever. But I'm pretty excited, ready to go. Tatum, Brown, Irving, Luka, Celtics, Mavericks. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Luka making it to his first NBA Finals. It's really impressive what the Mavs just did. I mean, Minnesota was coming off a 7-game series with the Nuggets where they were down 20 points in the third quarter of Game 7 and came back and won. And it looked like this team was destined to go to the NBA Finals. And Dallas just dominated the series. I mean, closed out a ton of close games in their first 3 victories. And in Game 5, it's just an embarrassment. The game was tied 18-18. And by the end of the first quarter, it was 37-19.
Yeah.
Luka and Kyrie Irving combined for close to 50 points in the first half. And this is, Jim, you're right. This is going to be a series. And I can tell you one thing. The Celtics better be ready to go because Kyrie and Luka are not bothered by road games. Luka's gone into Phoenix in Game 7 in the past and had a 40-point lead by halftime. Kyrie's gone into Game 5 of the NBA Finals where he dropped 40 on the road. This is a formidable opponent. I don't think we've talked about Dallas enough, but what we've seen in this playoff run is it's comparable to, I think, Nikola Jokic, and the way people spoke about him before he made the NBA Finals is the way people spoke about Luka. And I think we're getting to the point now where we're starting to realize that this guy might be the best player in the NBA. And the Celtics have the best team going into this series, but Dallas has a shot to win because they got a guy who's doing incredible stuff right now. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to talking matchups. I think this is going deep. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be stressful for fans on both sides. I talked about this last week. I think at times it's going to be ugly because I think the defenses on both teams are good. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I mean, Minnesota going into that series had the best defense in the NBA with wing defenders, and they had no answer for these guys. None. They were double teaming Luka 40 feet away from the basket because they couldn't stop him. The Celtics are going to have their hands full. And on the other side of it, there are matchups that the Celtics can kill Dallas with. So, like you said, Jim, this Dallas, Boston, I agree. I think right now where we're at in the NBA, with the way teams are playing, these are the best 2 teams in the league.
Yeah, I think absolutely the best 2 teams in the league, the way they're playing. I think this is all, in the NBA and the playoffs, is all about matchups when the skill level gets closer. I thought Minnesota really matched up well against Denver, better than I realized. I felt okay about Dallas. I think I picked Minnesota, but I thought it was going to be a good series, and I really felt great about Kyrie going into the series because of the matchup. I didn't think Minnesota really had anyone to match up against him, especially how easily they can get off a screen and roll and get him to the middle against Gobert, who they just killed all series. The wing defenders, what you realized pretty early on is that the wing defenders just aren't big enough to cover Luka and handle Luka. Luka just killed them, and it was a really good matchup for the Mavericks.
Man strength. He's just like big, strong guy.
Yeah, what's funny is
yeah,
I don't think the Pacers matchup was actually great for the Celtics, where a team that plays
no,
fast,
it
moves the
wasn't.
ball a ton, you see it they struggle against the Warriors in the past. You see them struggle against Miami. We're just, the non-superstar teams or superstar teams that move the ball quickly have really, stressed the Celtics defense. I think if Porzingis plays, I think this is a really good matchup for the Celtics. I think that, we talked about this as a playoff starts, and I know Dallas is playing at a high level of what team would be the best matchup. And we didn't pause. We said Dallas. Dallas would be the best matchup for the Celtics. And, you have a litany of history that kind of provides that for you. The Celtics' two best players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, have feasted against Kyrie and Luka, have feasted. You look at their numbers over the last 2 years, just look at this season. They're both averaging near 30 points a game. They're both shooting well over 50%. Tatum's over 9 rebounds a game. They're both about 5 or 6 assists, and they're defending on the other end. And they particularly attack those two players. That's who the Celtics attack on Dallas. And they attack those two players before the trade. They attack those two players post-trade. And I can guarantee they're going to do it again. Luka has shown no ability to stay in front of Jaylen Brown over the last 2 seasons. No ability to stay in front of Jaylen Brown. And I know Dallas has anchors in the back, but
and I thought,
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I thought Dallas did a good job, though, of against OKC and against Minnesota of actually, it's almost like 4 guys are playing man-to-man defense sometimes, and Luka's not. Luka's down low, literally hanging out by the post.
I think the big difference, though, Mike, on that, I think the big difference is you have 4 guys in the Celtics that can initiate the offense, and you cannot hide. You cannot hide against the Celtics defensively. Yeah. You can hide against Minnesota. You can hide.
Rudy Gobert's on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Or McDaniel, they hit off him to begin, and then they had to cover him on the 3. But you cannot hide against these, because it's not just Tatum and Brown, it's Drew. I'm sorry, it's Derek White. And then if you have Porzingis in, it becomes, even with Al, they'll stretch you out 5 as long as he's hitting his 3.
Right.
There's not a place for him to hide. Now, I think it's different without Porzingis because Dallas's size now becomes a huge factor. I don't think Al can handle that size when you start talking about Gafford and Lively and PJ Washington.
Those are good players.
They're good players. And their impact would get larger without Porzingis. With Porzingis, he'll stress them on both ends. So he'll neutralize that, and you'll be able to find matchups, particularly on offense with Porzingis, that you wouldn't be able to find with Al, to take those guys either away from the hoop or find a small on the block against Porzingis if Dallas decides to switch. So I think without Porzingis or less than healthy Porzingis, this becomes a much harder series. If Porzingis is ready to go, this matchup really, really favors the Celtics, in my opinion. I don't think it will be that long. I don't think it would go beyond 6. I really don't.
I guess
if both teams are playing at a high level, and the Celtics are fully loaded, this is a 5-game series.
Yeah, I guess the reason I don't agree with you is I have a lot of fears of how well Kyrie and Luka are going to show up in these big moments. And I trust that Tatum and Brown are going to show up too. But I think there's a skill level difference offensively in the half court that these two are showing us that you can play really, really great defense and it may not matter. I still think the Celtics should win the series, but there's going to be games, Jim, that I think these two are just going to stale. And we're going to be sitting there like, oh, man, we just lost the game. We played really well.
Do you feel that confident with Kyrie based on how he's played versus Celtics over the last 3 seasons? As I do again, Luka, I feel fully confident that he can do that.
I do, because of how he's playing right now and how he's been playing throughout the playoffs and how he's played in NBA Finals in the past. I do. I expect him to show up. just as I expect the Celtics to show up too. I'm not just going to sit here and kiss Dallas's ass. I'm just trying to lay out the groundwork of some of my fears going into the series of why I think Dallas has a shot. The other thing, you bring up really good points about the Celtics with their matchups. Luka will be dragged out. I think the biggest thing with these matchups against Luka and Kyrie, you're not going to get the benefit of the whistle. So, Luka is going to be allowed to use his big body, and that's what he does now. He fouls a lot, and he uses his body strength because he's bigger than you to push you off your shot. So it's going to be important when the Celtics are driving that they finish, or when they drive on Luka, if they're not going to be able to finish that they're kicking. That driving kick game, I think, is going to be really important when they're attacking Luka and Kyrie, and you've got to finish at the rim. And then on the defensive end, we can talk about the matchups with Kyrie and Luka. One thing I do want to talk about is these Dallas bigs are doing a really good job of passing out of the post and passing out of the top of the key. In Minnesota, I don't know if it was poor coaching, but it was driving me crazy. They were leaving shooters to overreact to these bigs.
Yeah.
And I would hope that the Celtics are smart enough to not leave shooters in this series. And on the defensive end, Kyrie and Luka, you have to finish at the basket too. We're going to bump you, and we're not leaving PJ Washington. We're not leaving Derek Jones. We're not leaving Hardy. We're going to stay with them. When Al Horford's in the game, I'm only going to overhelp if I know I'm blocking that shot. I'm not leaving the dunker position, the Gafford and Lively, because Luka is going to kill me on the alley-oop. It's about guarding your yard and really, I think, sticking to your guy. I think the help defense can be there to an extent, but if you overhelp against Dallas, I think what we saw with Minnesota is you're going to get killed.
Yeah.
You got to be able to stay in front of your man.
Yeah, so I think those are great points when Dallas has the ball. So the Celtics, especially this year, they have not doubled it, with the exception of maybe Jokic. They really have not doubled anybody. They would show some doubles.
Jalen Brunson, they always double Jalen Brunson. That's the guy they go after.
Yeah, they showed some doubles against Embiid, but they're not a team that traps a lot. I think if the game's close at the end of the game, they're going to have to, because those two are so dangerous. But over the course of the game, there should be no reason to leave guys in the corner, because the last thing you want these guys to start doing is feel rhythm, these role players, and get going and then be ready to go towards the end. What was so impressive about PJ Washington is he was never in rhythm and was hitting big shots at the end, which is kind of
Robin
shocking.
Horry.
He'd be like 3 or 12. He shot under 30% around there from 3, but they were all big shots, it felt like.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing the Celtics have that Minnesota didn't, as good as Minnesota was defensively, is they actually have some size to throw at Luka defensively. Now, what Tatum and Brown need to be careful of not doing is getting in foul trouble against him.
Exactly.
I think they're the two best suited to cover Luka, because they both have the bulk, especially Jalen. I think Holiday and White are fine against Kyrie. And again, he has really struggled. He has really, really struggled against the Celtics, going back now 2.5 years to get going. He's had some moments. He had some moments in that Brooklyn series, and he's had some moments since, but they haven't been. When was the last time you finished a game against Kyrie as a Celtics fan and thought, wow, there was nothing we could have done?
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. And so I think not a lot has to change there on how you approach him. But Luka, it's got to be a bigger bodies on him that have the foot speed to stay in front, and you don't foul, and you just hope you force him to take tough shots, which he will probably hit a decent amount of them. I want Luka's shots. If Luka's shots are around 30 or over every game, I think the Celtics are in really good shape.
Oh, obviously, because then you're taking away. If
he's in the mid-20s and lower, and he's got 12, 15 assists, that's where you're like, oh shit, this thing could be problematic. But in one of the games versus Celtics this season, and they end up losing by 20, he was like 12 for 24 and 12 rebounds and 15 assists or something, but it really didn't matter. But I want him shooting upwards to 30 times, and I want that number to be like 12 for 30 or 13 for 30. And I think if that's where you are, you're feeling pretty good. The key for the Mavericks is you obviously feel like you have the advantage of this thing is close and late. The question is, can you do that 4 times? Can you get it to be close and late 4 times over a course of the series? And then finish in each one of those 4 chances. I'm not sure they can. I think if they are, that's probably has a lot to do with what the Celtics are not doing and making the mistakes you're talking about, maybe leaving for help or they're not rebounding the basketball. Porzingis isn't healthy. If Porzingis isn't healthy, Mike, I think this is a completely different series. I'd still pick the Celtics in 7, but I would not be shocked at all if the Mavericks won. I think the size, and I thought that was the difference versus Oklahoma. Everyone will talk about Kyrie and Luka in that series, but I thought it was Dallas's size that just killed the Thunder. It killed the Thunder. And you see a lot of similarities with the Celtics kind of roster without Porzingis. I believe still more talented, still much more talented than Oklahoma's. But you see some similarities in how they're built without Porzingis, and that could get scary against Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas's bigs are good. They've had multiple games this postseason where both bigs have had double-doubles in the same game.
Good.
These guys can play. I didn't think Gafford was good when he was in Washington. I think it was he just didn't give a fuck, maybe. I don't know. But he's a different guy now. He had 4 straight games against Minnesota with 4 or more blocks. These guys are playing at a high level. One thing I want to see from the Celtics on the offensive end, too, is they like to hunt their matchups. And more often than not, that benefits them.
Hunt early.
With the Luka matchup, it's important, like, that's not a guy you post up. I saw Minnesota trying to post this guy up. And it's like that's not what you do against him. You gotta drag him out.
No,
he's an immovable object. He's huge. Like he's got that man strength. So you gotta pull him out and make him defend in a different way.
Go back and watch the last 3 minutes of the Celtics Mavericks the first time they played and what Jaylen Brown did to him, and that's exactly how you attack him.
I remember, I've seen it.
It's exactly how you attack him. And what they did is they just threw him bloody blows throughout the game. And it was a lot of what you talked about, Mike. You kind of hit it on the head. It was drive and kick. It was attacking Luka, but it wasn't necessarily shooting on Luka, but it was making him move his feet constantly.
Yep.
And then when it got to the fourth quarter, he was dead man walking on the defensive side. It was a huge target on him, and Kyrie was on the floor, and they didn't even pay attention to Kyrie. They attacked Luka. And that was a decently close game at that point. I remember you texting me back, oh, this is going to come down to another last-second Luka shot. And the next thing you know, it was a 10-point game because Dallas couldn't get a stop. And because he couldn't get a stop. And I think that's exactly how you go after him. And like I said, you have 4 guys that can initiate the offense here. Don't do the thing where you wait 10 seconds and then attack Luka or Kyrie. Go early. Go early.
Yeah, you got to go early.
Go early. Punch, drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick. Give it to Porzingis in the post. Like, however you got to do it. And you just attack that constantly and you try to break their will. And they're going to be physical with you. They have physical guys. They have good length. So their help is going to be good off of Luka and Kyrie. And you've mentioned that a ton with Jones and Gafford and Lively and PJ Washington. They have really good length that will be problematic, but you just got to keep attacking them. This is not the best defense the Celtics have faced all year. It's a good, solid defense, but it's not the best one they faced all year. And it's one that has weaknesses, and you need to exploit that. I'd be shocked if we don't see some zone versus, if Dallas doesn't throw some zone against the Celtics in this series, to see if they can, cause some issues with their length and try to protect Luka and Kyrie a bit. I'd be shocked if we don't see some zone from Dallas.
Yeah, I probably will. And I think, obviously, the Celtics are much better when they're locked in defensively. So come in locked in defensively and on your stops, get out transition. Win that transition game. Get these guys uncomfortable on their heels. run after the make, run after the miss. Get into your sets early, as you mentioned, Jim.
Yeah.
Just play smart basketball. Look for the open threes that you get and get them up there. You can beat this team with your 3-point shooting.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of 3-point. Again, I'm sorry for interrupting, but you're 100% right. I think fans might get frustrated because there's going to be a game that's a clunker because they're not going to hit shots, but they're going to shoot 50 to threes a game, and that means they're going well. It's going to be 40 to 50 threes a game against this team because that means they're breaking down Kyrie and Luka and they're getting open looks.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim, it's here. I'm ready for game one. It's next Thursday. Yeah, I think one thing too with the Celtics, this is my last point, like for keys to victory in the series. You get a big lead, whether it's at home or on the road. Luka and Kyrie that's not going to bother them. It's not one of those things that, the loud crowd you have to
I don't know about Kyrie. The crowd has bothered him. I actually want to talk about that in a second. I think Luka, no. Yeah, the crowd has bothered Kyrie. It has gotten.
Well, it hasn't. The crowd hasn't bothered Kyrie in these playoffs. And
but this crowd.
This Boston crowd has. Yeah. And we'll see. I don't think Kyrie's the same player, Jim. I think he's a different player right now. I think he's a player that's locked in, ready to win a championship. And I think he is ready to ignore the noise and just play. And for me, the way you beat that is you keep playing, because there's going to be games where you get big leads in this series. And the Celtics have shown a comfort level on offense when they go into their prevent offense or whatever it might be. This team's not going to get bothered. They're going to keep playing. Dallas they're a tough team. They take on Luka's personality, and maybe that's helping. Maybe that's helping Kyrie.
I don't know.
They talk shit. They're tough. You have to stay focused. You can't lose your focus in the series.
Kyrie's going to have to prove that to me. So back in March, he came in with the sage thing again, if you remember. Before the game, he was waving his stupid sage thing around the garden to get the bad vibes out or whatever, kooky thing he had going on in his head. He's going to have 6 more days of being asked about this. Every single day. This is going to be top of mind. And it's going to range from everything from his time here to the crowd, his Boston races. It's all coming. And it's going to be the point of conversation. Our crowd, I hope, gets there early and chants his name and gets into him early. And I know we've said in the past it's time to be over it. Actually, it's time to be nuts now. It's time to see if you can have an impact as a Boston crowd, because I think it's in his head. Maybe you're right. Maybe he's beyond that, but it should be tested. He should not go untested here. And I hope this crowd.
Don't throw water bottles at him.
Don't do anything stupid. Don't say anything vulgar or throw water bottles, but be loud and be obnoxious. You have the right to do that, as long as you don't cross the line. And you should be going after him and see how he reacts, because he has not reacted well to it since he's left at all. And it's affected his play. I don't care what anyone says. It has affected his play. Now, you've seen players turn the page on that, like you have said. Roger Clemens, when he first left the Red Sox, when he would come back here, it would not be a good, he had 1 or 2 good starts, and it wouldn't be a good scene for him. The crowd clearly got to him. Then he was able to turn the page later in his career. He was exceptional here. So guys can turn the page, and maybe that happens. I have another prediction. Before the series is over, the Boston fan base is going to hate Luka just as much as they hate Kyrie. With his incentive,
they will.
With his bitching and his flopping and his talking trash and all the stuff you find entertaining when he's not playing your team, by the way, is what you're going to hate him about. He's going to be a villain before this series is over here in Boston, especially if this is a back and forth series.
Yeah, and I don't think he's the type of guy that the crowd wants to get into a back and forth with.
Oh, I agree with that.
I think that turns him into a better player. We don't need to have a Grant Williams, Jimmy Butler moment. Okay? That's the last thing we need. But we'll see. I'm interested to see how game one's going to go. The Celtics going to have all that time off. Now Dallas is too. So could be a little ugly to start. But after maybe those first couple of quarters, I think it's going to be like really entertaining basketball between these two teams.
Is there
And,
any precedent for this break, by the way? Like, has this ever happened where it's this long of a break where two teams have not played? When the
I have
Celtics
no
played the
idea.
Warriors, they played 2 days later. Like, I know they
They were
came
leaving
off a
the game
7-game
7.
series, but
Yeah.
this is weird.
And they came out hot in that game one. It was almost like that 7-game series had helped them take that first game in Golden State. It'll be interesting. So you think the Celtics, if Porzingis is healthy, is going to win in around like 5 or 6 games?
I do. Yeah, and I'd probably lean closer to 5.
Completely close to 5, yeah.
It would take, in my opinion, for Dallas to stay in, it would take the Celtics fucking out for this to go longer.
Yeah, it's hard for me to predict because I have no idea where Porzingis is. Like, I don't feel like we've gotten any good updates on him, and that gives me pause. Like, is this guy really going to play? Is he playing? Is he going to be out there? Is he going to be close to full strength?
Well, you saw his tweet.
Game one's going to tell us a lot.
Did you see his tweet the other day?
Who?
Porzingis?
No, I didn't see his
tweet. It was in Latvian. Let me look it up here. So this is where I felt like he's playing. So I'm not going to try to read it in his. This is what it's translated to. Thank you to everyone who supports and sympathizes throughout the season. I'll be back in line soon. See you in the finals, and then an arena with your own. And there's a picture of a shamrock and a Latvian flag. So my guess, if he says I'll be back soon, see you in the finals, to me that's saying I'm playing, right? Isn't that how you interpret it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he makes a big difference. He makes a big difference.
I mean, it's a big difference if he's healthy and he's good to go. I think, I heard Perk on the radio say that if he's 75%, I think at 75% he's not effective. I think you got a guy that's struggling to protect the rim and do the things that he does so well. But if he's healthy, and it's been well over a month, so there's good reason to think that he will be ready. Then I think it's a different series.
All right, Jim. Well, game one next Thursday. Looking forward to it.
All right. Talk soon.
All right, go Celtics.